Welcome to the Cannabis Investor Series, as we present a first-hand look into the rapidly evolving cannabis industry and the opportunities that lie ahead. Hi, welcome to the Cannabis Investor Series. I'm your host, Barrington Miller, and this week we are talking about global cannabis. And why not talk about risk and navigating risk in a world of opportunities? I'm here with Purves Redmond. Representing Purves Redmond, I have Angelo Capone, Mark Carlson, and Mert Guler. Welcome to the Cannabis Investor Series.
Thanks, Barrington.
Yes.
For our audience and listeners, we have service providers that work alongside with the CSE, and they help our companies basically stay listed and just help them along the path of their public existence. So we thought, in discussing cannabis and all things related to cannabis, we'll touch upon some of the risks that are inherent, because nobody really likes to talk about insurance. Sorry guys, but it's true. We don't really like to talk about insurance, but it is necessary, it is vital, and it plays a very, very important part. Before we get into it, let's go around the horn and tell us briefly what you do. And I'm going to start with Angelo. Angelo, go ahead.
Well, again, thanks for having us on here. Angelo Capone. I'm a client executive broker with Purves Redmond here out of Toronto. I have the fortune of working with Mark and Mert in the emerging risk division of PRL. And one of the avenues that we look at mostly is, or one of the industries we target mostly is cannabis and some of the ongoing changes and risks associated with that industry. For example, one of them being the outdoor crop and that transition towards growing outdoor cultivation and the risks surrounding that. So that's just an example of what we look at, and we do that on a daily basis, and hopefully we can help some of the people listening out here.
Thanks a lot, Angelo. Mark, what about you? And where are you right now?
I'm located in Vancouver. So
nice. Go ahead. Tell us what you do.
I'm Angelo's counterpart here in Vancouver, so also client executive producer, and again, focusing on emerging risks, and particularly cannabis, and seeing how we can help drive profitability in the industry and lower that total cost of risk for everyone.
Thank you. And now finally, the straw that stirs this drink, Mert, tell us
the
what
necessary
you do.
evil, like insurance. Some people call me a necessary evil. Mert Guler, and I'm a partner at Purves Redmond. Angelo and I are both in Toronto, and we focus on challenging industries like cannabis, and we're doing a real deep dive in globalization of cannabis. And Purves Redmond and all of us on the call today are all experienced in international business in different sectors, different industries, from mining to industrials to chemicals to manufacturing, and now we're expanding our expertise in the world of international business into cannabis and the future of the cannabis sector.
Well, thanks a lot. For our listeners and our audience, you may not know this, but the cannabis industry needs, like any other industry, you need to have insurance. You need to be protected because sometimes things may not work out the way that you plan for them to. And this is a question directed to the group. What are some of the main trends and issues that you're seeing globally in cannabis?
Recently, what I think I touched upon it during the intro is what we're seeing is the that trend of that pivoting to outdoor cultivation and reducing your overall overhead in manufacturing. And like any industry, like any other manufacturing industry, is you want to reduce your total cost of production to increase your profit margin. So I think outdoor cultivation is one of the trends that we're seeing pick up, and that trend has a lot of risks associated with it as well. If it's not properly insured or properly protected, then unfortunately these companies can sustain significant losses.
What about profitability?
Absolutely. So with profitability, similar to like Angelo said, with a lot of other industries, globalization starts to happen, and obviously one of the things preventing that with cannabis is the legalization in the various jurisdictions around the world. However, with the sentiment changing towards cannabis, we're starting to see more and more states and or other countries open up. And with that comes some more risks, obviously associated with dealing internationally. And so things like shipments, and so transporting your product from one country or across state lines to another comes up, and there's certain requirements around that and what types of insurance you need to have in order to get that done. And so we've been working with a lot of our global partners to try and come up with some solutions for that for the industry.
What's also interesting is insurance just isn't for the physical crop. It's also for and needed for directors. Mert, would you be able to expand on that point a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Barrington. So in any industry, publicly traded companies, private as well, but especially publicly traded executives of publicly traded companies have unique risks and exposures to litigation. And for the audience out there who are already sitting on a board in the cannabis sector, whether it's U.S. or Canadian or international, anywhere in the world, they're seeing the extremely challenging marketplace in the world of directors and officers, which started years ago, and it started because of just a significant spike in claims, especially throughout North America, securities claims, generally speaking. And then a couple of years ago, we started seeing in 2018, 2019, a real spike in securities litigation against cannabis companies. So the already really tough environment in terms of losses and claims, and then generally in the courts, and then the spike in cannabis claims has really spooked directors and officers, insurers. And then now with COVID and the global uncertainty, insurance companies are, the word I use is scared. I mean, I don't know what other word to use. They're so worried about claims. They've already had experience with claims, so it's not coming out of left field because they've already had significant experience in both US and Canadian courts. So there are not many insurers willing to write this, and things are starting to change. But at this time, there are not a lot of new entrants into the sector in terms of insurance companies to balance out the kind of supply and demand. What we are hoping for is that with the passage in the US Congress of the SAFE Act, and hopefully that gets approved in the Senate, or with some other major changes, that there's going to be new US-based insurers, and then that's going to make the world more relaxed, like Lloyd's and the London-based insurers relax and feel more secure about providing insurance in the cannabis sector. Because right now, most US-based insurance companies and Lloyd's-based insurance companies, most are still not in this sector.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah,
sorry,
no,
Angelo, go ahead.
I was going to say, and to Mert's point, we don't foresee this lasting too much longer. We think that there's probably going to be a loosening up, or I guess an easing off on the premiums within the next 6-7 months. We recently just placed a Canadian cannabis company domiciled here in Toronto, but whose operations are in the US, and the premiums were significantly less than what we were seeing last year or the year before. So we do see that loosening up, and hopefully that trend continues.
I was going to and thank you for that. I was going to let our audience know, just to get a deeper understanding of Purves's footprint. You're not just in Canada, you're not Toronto, Vancouver, and covering the States. I think the number was 90 countries worldwide. That's
right, Barrington. Although we today on the phone are good homegrown Canadian boys, globally, we're part of the largest global network of on the ground, boots on the ground insurance providers worldwide. It's called the Howden One Global Network. We're actually the largest producer. Howden One is the largest producer of direct insurance premiums into the Lloyd's of London marketplace, with representation in 90 countries, pretty much every market you can think of, with 10,000 people. So because of that, we rely heavily on that network. We have clients doing business in Colombia, cultivating in Colombia, throughout Latin America, Argentina, Uruguay, Jamaica, throughout Europe, and we're actually the largest broker in the cannabis sector in Israel. Howden Howden, our partner there. So we have tremendous, resources and expertise to draw upon for any cannabis company that needs to do anything throughout the world. And across North America alone, for example, we insure 6 million square feet of cannabis production space across the United States and Canada. So we have tremendous capabilities, and we have to, because the trend is increasingly global. And right now, the friends, the people that we work with and talk to, and our clients like yourself, Barrington, are friends. They're our friends. And it pains us to see some of the challenges that our Canadian friends and our Canadian LP friends are going through in right now in the Canadian cannabis sector. And it seems like some of the important growth opportunities are abroad. And so we have to have the expertise and the capabilities and infrastructure to help them as they grow abroad.
That's really, really important. And again, the Canadian Securities Exchange, we're starting to have a global footprint of representatives from around the globe. So, taking your expertise in one outdoor growing jurisdiction and applying it to somewhere else is extremely valuable. And yes, we are friends. Speaking of friends, friends support one another. And how is Purves Redmond supporting the industry, supporting these companies, and supporting global cannabis players?
We're insurance guys, so we're brokers. That's what we do. We support our clients first and foremost in every which way we can. And I think at the end of the day, we look at their organization. We outline, what their risks, and we make the recommendations, plus or minus whether, maybe they should move into that area or that opportunity. And then when they make that decision, we go to market for them. We go to bat for them, and we support them in terms of getting them the best price, the best coverage to cover off their risks. We do that for every single client globally. We'll work in conjunction with our Israeli partners, our US partners, our European partners to do so.
One of the challenges that our cannabis friends face when they're doing business abroad is there's a lack of insurance markets in other countries, because in Canada, it has very few insurance companies that are active in cannabis, and the United States is limited. The US insurance market is much larger than Canada's, but it's still limited because cannabis is still new, and there's all these still regulatory issues. Imagine in a place like Colombia or certain other places in Latin America or Asia, it's far newer, and so the regulations are still being thought about, processed by the insurance companies down there. So there's really not too many insurance options, and we have to help our clients, and we have to work with our global partners in all these different countries to establish an insurance market in these different countries, and find through either global connections or local connections, either way. And we do both. We look at both options to get some form of coverage where our clients need it anywhere in the world. And Mark, maybe you should talk about the cargo.
Yeah, so with the cargo and the global options for that, what we're seeing is a lot of options in Lloyd's where we can actually reduce down the cost of the cargo shipments and the coverage, not just through reducing the cost of insurance, but also the security requirements around with transporting those shipments. So a lot of insurance companies are treating cannabis kind of like gold, and they're expecting you to have armored trucks, they're expecting you to have GPS, and they're putting all of these really, really stringent and strict requirements on those shipments, which obviously drives up the total cost of that shipment. So when we've been looking at cannabis cargo shipments, we look at it as a holistic approach, not just the insurance premiums, but all of the costs that go into looking at that cargo shipment. And so what we found is there are options utilizing the London market, or depending on the country, sometimes local markets as well, to bring down those total costs and look at it, like I said, as a holistic approach, as opposed to the narrow point of view of how can we just get the cheapest insurance premium? Because at the end of the day, the companies are going to have to pay all of those costs. So why not look at all of them as opposed to just the one insurance premium?
If there's a place in Canada that knows about cargo and shipping, it's definitely on the West Coast. That's really, really important. And thank you for that. Now, I'm an international cannabis executive, what are some of the things that I should be keeping in mind when it comes to insurance? Or what's some of the advice that Purves Redmond would give me as an international cannabis executive?
We're seeing an explosion, like we talked about a little bit touched on, is moving cultivation to lower cost jurisdictions. This is a major world of opportunity. Hopefully, and we all hope that in a few years' time, people are going to be, makeup will be CBD based cosmeceuticals used by people around the world. People are going to be drinking CBD based, Gatorade and caffeine free diet, CBD Pepsi in every marketplace, and THC infused beverages and edibles and all that, both CBD and psychoactive THC ingredients all over the world. That's a really exciting future vision. And we're really excited about that. And that's one of the things we love about this ever-changing industry. As part of that, we're seeing cultivation increasingly being outsourced or done more in other countries outside of North America, and outdoor. So outdoor cannabis cultivation has been one of those really, really difficult areas for insurance. And there's very few sources of coverage. Traditionally, government programs can help with that, even in Canada, help support agriculture outdoors or farm mutuals. But so far, we're not seeing that those sources of insurance support outdoor cannabis cultivation anywhere. So we have worked hard with our London-based partners and our global partners to help create a really innovative, exciting solution that we think is very different. And it's perfectly targeted for outdoor cannabis cultivation anywhere in the world. And it's an extremely flexible product where you, as the cannabis company, you as the executives, can choose what the risks are that you're the most worried about in this particular location, or this, this particular another country. Even if you have multiple locations for outdoor cultivation, you choose the risks that you're worried about. You only insure the risks that you want to insure, and you pick the thresholds and parameters. For example, this much rain, or if the temperature drops below this level and there's a frost, I want the coverage to be triggered at that point. So we're really excited about this, and we do want people to know that outdoor crop insurance can be a solution that you can look at, because the last thing anyone wants is to invest millions and millions of dollars anywhere in the world, whether it's Canada or in the United States or in Latin America or anywhere in the world, and have that outdoor crop destroyed by a rain or a drought or a frost or hail or something like that. So that's something that we do want people to know exists, and they can contact yourself or us, and we'd be happy to walk them through the parameters.
And to add to Mert's point, Barrington, being the international man of cannabis that you are, we'd recommend, educate yourself. And obviously, I'm sure every executive in the cannabis sector knows the regulations of each jurisdiction that they're operating in. But know that, and know if there are any specific insurance requirements to operate in those jurisdictions, because that's very important. And, if there's any questions surrounding that, we're happy to loop in our international team to, consult with any of the clients or yourselves when you're trying to venture off into a new jurisdiction. And I think it's another thing to make mention that, to Mert's point about the outdoor crop insurance, as a director or an officer for any company, there's a certain level of responsibility you have to make these decisions in terms of which coverages to buy and which ones not to buy. Because ultimately, if you elect not to buy a certain coverage and a loss occurs, it's a potential issue going forward if you can't show those profits because of the decision he or she made as a director not to purchase the line of coverage. So again, that's something that we're there to help outline for any director, any officer, what coverages you should get, which ones we recommend, because we know at the end of the day, there's a certain amount of spend for insurance. There's only a certain amount of dollars, and we would like to point these clients into the right direction and show them where the most risk is for them.
I want to make sure whoever's listening really, really understands that, because it's a good point that all of you have brought up. You choose the insurance that is right for you. And if you're not sure, you can talk to the people at Purves and get their experience and their advice. That's one thing that this Cannabis Investor Series has taught me, is that talking and finding out and asking questions and learning and you know, educating yourself will save you dollars. Could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you're not sure, Purves is and again, I might be a little biased because I've worked with Purves, but if you have questions, they're more than they're more than open to answer them. And that was a really, really good wrap up. Does anybody have any closing remarks for what we've been talking about?
Yeah, I think one thing I just want to say in closing is that it's not all doom and gloom with the insurance industry as it relates to cannabis, even though I think that's kind of been the message that people have been receiving over the past couple of years with rates and premiums going up. But like Angelo said at the beginning of this call, we have started to see a leveling off, if not a decrease in some of the accounts that we're looking at. There are more people and more players coming into the market. Insurance companies are starting to relook at this with the increased globalization of the industry, because it's clearly not going away. And so I think it's just really important for people to keep that in mind and know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we are seeing a change in the industry for the positive. And so encourage people to reach out and ask about those things, because it's definitely a possibility.
Mert, and I'd just like to thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to thank anyone that's listening. Again, if they have any questions whatsoever, just pick up the phone, give us a call, shoot us an email. We're always happy to help. You can come pick our brains anytime.
And I'd like to say, Barrington, it's been, we've known each other for several years, and we love what the Canadian Securities Exchange has done. We think your strategy and growth and focus on cannabis has been revolutionary and amazing. And we really believe in this sector, in global cannabis and North American cannabis, and we believe in the Canadian Securities Exchange. And any issuer on the CSE or friend of the CSE is a friend of our firm. And even if it's just a matter of picking our brain or just chatting about some benchmarking or getting a second opinion on something, we are there to support your issuers and friends anytime. And as the world of global opportunities is so exciting in cannabis, and we share the vision of a totally different world where THC and CBD products and medicinal and cosmeceutical and edible and consumer packaged goods are just used ubiquitously throughout the world one day. We'd like to grow and support it. In the meantime, there are risks to be aware of. And with our expertise in North American cannabis and our global network, we want to share that with your issuers and friends, and as part of our friendship.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for your time, Angelo, Mert, Mark. This has been an episode of the globalization of cannabis within the Cannabis Investor Series. And we've been talking with Purves Redmond, teaching us how to navigate risk in a world of opportunities. Thank you, and see you on the next episode. This is the Cannabis Investor Series.